Well, hey everyone, how's it going? So, I wanted to post a update video on this inverter. I'm actually shocked. I get probably a dozen messages a day from all different people about when they can get this inverter, how much is it going to cost, how's my review coming, how's my testing coming. This for some reason this inverter seems to be really popular, and so I'll try to answer a bunch of questions. I'll give you an update on what's going on. So I received this inverter about 3 weeks ago, and this inverter is yet to be sold. Okay, I'm one of a few people who actually have these, and we're actually testing them, working out the bugs, because this is a first for powerjack for a lot of different things, such as that massive transformer in the middle, plus the dual main boards. They have a new controller board, load drivers, everything else. It's all it's new, updated. It's whatever. But anyway, the point is that this is kind of like a pre-production model, okay? And so there's bugs that have to be worked out with it. And unfortunately, we've run into an issue with voltage regulation. So basically, what was happening is as the input voltage was rising, from my solar panels, bringing the voltage up. As that was happening, the inverter output was rising, which isn't unusual. However, it'd get to about 117, 118 volts, and then it would just cut down to about 106 or 107 volts, and then slowly come back up. Even if the voltage of the battery bank was on a steady rise, it would buck, basically, is what it was doing. That's basically the term for it. It would buck the voltage down violently. Actually, it was very abrupt. And the problem that I was having is it was running great, except for example, when I was doing that air conditioning test video, some of the equipment that I had running off of this was complaining about brownout conditions. So I have a battery backup that's on my computer, and it detects brownouts, and it'll click over when it needs to if there's a brownout. And what was happening is, because I was putting out 1.2 kilowatts worth of solar, but I was only drawing 700 watts off the inverter, the battery voltage would be rising up until the charge controller actually kicked off. But as it was rising, the inverter was bucking back, and it was causing the voltage to drop even further. So what was happening is it was basically like it was a brownout. Every 4 or 5 seconds, it would just cut, raise, cut, raise, cut, raise, cut. Now, if I did not have the solar input connected, then it didn't have that problem. So I'd been working with the engineers at PowerJack, going back and forth, trying to figure out what was going on with this. It's really hard to diagnose something when you're 10,000 miles away. So what we ended up concluding was that we were going to replace the moss boards in case there was anything wrong there, and then we were going to replace the main board. So they updated the main board. This is the new main board. This is the old main board. You can see it's much bigger. I'd also recommended that they raise the standing voltage, at least the output voltage, to at least 115 volts. Closer to 120 is preferred. So they ended up modifying this board to actually get to that point. So anyway, I got the new MOS boards installed. You can see I've got all green lights on the MOS boards. The battery bank is plugged into this. The only problem is that there is something with, once again, the voltage regulator, and we're concerned that possibly the problems that it had before actually may have caused damage to the transformer, which I don't think is the case. These transformers they're beasts, and unless you really overdrive them, they shouldn't have any problems. And I never smelled anything burning or anything else like that. Everything seems to be fine. But I'll give you kind of a test demonstration here. I'll turn the fan off. So you can see the voltage, 328 volts, 166 volts, and then the inverter shuts down. This actually came loose, but that's actually the warning beep. The speaker actually came loose when I was putting everything in. That has nothing to do with it, but so the inverter actually goes into protection mode and shuts down, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. So right now we're kind of trying to figure out I'm hoping that they'll send me a whole brand new inverter. Again, this is all in testing, and I've been sending them videos. We're going back and forth, and we're trying to figure this thing out. But everything that I've been able to test on my end, as far as what I can test, seems to be passing. The toroid, as soon as the inverter powers up and the output board requests, obviously some voltage, some output to the toroid, it actually pulls it to the transformer. And I've gone through this with a multimeter in every possible nook and cranny to see what's going on, and I'm convinced that something, when I think it has something to do with the low frequency driver. I'm almost positive that the low frequency driver somehow messed up some of the electronics in here. But again, I'm not sure. And once again, I'm really hoping that they send me a new inverter, because they sent me new main boards, they sent me new MOS boards, and I got all those installed. But obviously, we've got a voltage issue where this toroid is putting out way more voltage than it's supposed to. It's only supposed to be putting out, obviously, 220, 110, actually, more like 230, 115 now that it's been adjusted. So it's way more than it should. So I haven't been running this all that much. I've been flipping it on once in a while just to kind of test stuff. I double checking my wiring, making sure that I have everything hooked up right. But again, I don't want you guys to think, I've been kind of avoiding posting anything because I was hoping to get this thing fixed and then get my review restarted. I've got an unboxing. I've got a whole bunch of test footage of everything that I've been running off this thing, and when it was working just fine, when I didn't have issues with voltage bucking, then it was a beast, and it was making quick work out of anything that I could throw at it. But as time went on, that voltage bucking just kind of got worse and worse and worse, and eventually it's like, okay, I can't recommend this inverter in its current state. So right now, as I said, we're kind of going back and forth. It's a little bit difficult, going all the way to Hong Kong, trying to figure this thing out. So hopefully they'll send me a new inverter. If I can ever get this thing finished with my tests and make sure that everything's great. I have an oscilloscope, which is really nice. So I'll be testing that as well. But once I get this thing up and running, then hopefully I'll get my review going. And then I'll definitely I'll post a link to where you can buy these, because right now they're not available. They will, okay, so some of the other questions that I was asked, they will be in 24 and 48 volts. Will be the two versions available, not 12 volts. So it'll be 24 and 48. It's 15,000 watts all the way across. And I don't exactly know the price. I can't quote a price, but I can tell you that the big square gray inverters they have that are 15,000 watts are $1,200 to $1,500 for those. So I'm expecting this inverter is going to be just as much. But I like the layout. I like the room that's in this inverter. I'm definitely going to be making some changes as far as cooling goes, especially on a 24 volt model, because you're going to be generating more heat from the transformer versus a 48 volt. I can wire my bank in 48 volts. The issue that I currently have with that, number one, is my charge controller is rated for 24 volts, so I'd have to buy a new one of those and a new contactor. And I would also have to rearrange my solar panels on the roof, and they're already set. It's something that I could do, but 24 volts for me is fine because I don't plan on driving this all the way to 15,000 watts if it's capable of that for extended periods anyways. So anyway, I know this is a long video. I know it's a lot of gibberish, but I'm working on it. All right, I just wanted you guys. There's some finishing touches. There's other things. I've before all this really started getting bad. I was telling them the weaknesses, the things that needed to be adjusted, some glue that needed to be added in certain points that I noticed that connections were loose and things like that. Quick connects for some of these wires because they made this thing so modular, which is great. That's perfect. So if you have one of these boards that blows out, well, you just, a couple of screws, for the overload board, just 2 screws right here, lift it up, replace it. You're done. I mean, they've made it so easy to replace things, and every single item on here has a light. It's a status light that confirms that, in fact, the component is in good working condition. So if you have one of these lights that doesn't light up, you immediately know that it's that particular component that is busted. So that's great. That's perfect for diagnostics, and you can just order this part, you can order that part, whatever. So this is perfect. They're on the right track with this kind of stuff, but again, this is an early model. It's pre-production, and we are still working on it. They are fine-tuning it, refining it, and hopefully we will have a really beast of an inverter. I already know, based on the testing that I've done, that it is an absolute monster. And I really put it through its paces. I've got a lot of footage, but I couldn't finish it because I did not want to ruin my air conditioner. I didn't want to ruin any of my electronics, nothing like that, or have the inverter blow up on me or something else that was going wrong. So anyway, there you go. Uh, I'm really happy with this, but again, pre-production. Okay, so. And powerjack was nice enough to send me this to actually test, so I can't complain about cost. I still have my 8,000 watt as a backup that I could use. But anyway, alright guys, that's the update for now. I will keep, updating as much as I can. Take care.